This is the Promisingpreneur podcast. I am Aahliyah Amerat, and today's episode is a mixture of 6 different stories that have made all the difference in these entrepreneurs' lives. The core essence of building any business is clearly understanding what drives you and drawing on that when it gets hard, because it could be the start or the saviour of an amazing business journey. Was there a pivotal moment for you when you was just like, I'm doing everything and this is not happening?
Not saying no enough.
Okay.
Always said yes.
He was a yes man.
Whoa. Not in the studio. I'll tell my artist that that's not good. But I mean in terms of doing things. People asking for favours and things that would lead me astray where I'm supposed to focus on this. It's always saying yes. I needed to say no. I needed to learn how to say no and be comfortable saying no. Because when you're saying no, I'm saying no and then I'm saying, it's because I'm making excuses, and then that gives them a reason to say, but you can do this and okay, cool. Like, I feel like that, me just saying yes all the time and trying to help everyone was a downfall for me. Because there's only so much of me that I could give.
Where do you think that yes mentality came from?
I'm a helper. I've always tried to help. From the day I was born. I remember when I was born, I was 7 and my brother was born. I'm changing his nappy. I'm getting SMA. I'm doing this. I'm helping my cousins. I'm helping. Like, you know, like I was an old soul at a young age. You know what I'm trying to say? And I was just helping. I just felt good helping people, you know? And then that just carried on throughout my journey. So now I'm becoming a businessman. I need to learn to be shrewd and stern, but I'm not, because my natural personality is to help. So when someone's in need, I'm going above and beyond to help them when I can't really do it, really, but I feel bad. So that was something that I felt like I couldn't stop, and that led me to not getting to where I needed to get fast enough. I always have setbacks because I'm just helping too many people. You know what I'm trying to say? And if I look back at it now, I would have said no more. You know, like obviously I can still help, but I can't help all the time.
It's like Lisa, I think it's Lisa Nichols. Lisa Nichols says, you can't, paraphrasing here because I can't remember exactly what she says, but she goes, she turned around and said, I can't help the community if I'm still in the community. What am I doing sitting next to the same people that need the help? I need to be outside of it so then I can support you. Because if I'm not outside of it, then I'm broke like you. It's that simple, isn't it? So like, what would you say, you building the management company, creative management company, what would you say was the pivotal moment that taught you, like one of the biggest lessons that you learned whilst building your own management company?
Yeah, so I remember when I first started, right, being an entrepreneur again. I keep using this word because, you know, Promisingpreneur podcast. I took on way too many artists at one stage, right? So I started off managing a producer. My little brother was close friends with the producer, and he was making beats. And my brother said to him, "Oh, you should talk to my brother." Yada yada yada. Spoke to me. I got him music sent to some artists. Cut a long story short, he asked me to manage him. So I've managed the producer. When managing the producer, it got a bit boring because managing the producer, you got to put them in a session with an artist. The artist records the track. The track may not come out for a year. So there's nothing for the producer doesn't get paid. The producer doesn't get his PRS statements. There's nothing until that song goes out, right? So we're sitting here, we're excited because he's working with all of these artists, but there's nothing's going on. So then I have to then think, okay, cool. I saw Lil Wayne start Young Money. And I'm gonna get to the point, right? Lil Wayne started Young Money, and in my head I'm like, right, I could start a collective of artists and producers, because that way, if I've got my own artists, I don't have to wait for someone else to release the music. If it's my artist, release the music, so the producer's happy, the artist is happy. Cool. So I took on artists. Then working with the artists, I met other artists at the time. So cool. I took on Ray. Ray was an artist at the time. I saw his F64 on SBTV, and the guy could spit. Lyrical genius. This was no gibbery stuff. This was technical metaphors, bars. And I'm like, raw, this guy is hard. Reached out to him, had a meeting. He was on board. I told him straight, bro, I've just started managing. I don't know exactly what I'm doing. But I tell you what, no one is going to want it as much as me. Whatever it takes, I'm going to do it, bro. I told him straight, I looked him in his eye, and I said, I will do it. Anything that's needed, I will do it. He shook my hand. He said, bro, let's go. Tell a lie. I played him. I made my producer make a couple of beats specifically for him. I gave him my Beats headphones. I remember it to this day. He put the headphones on. He was in a cafe in Sydenham. And he listened to the first beat. He took it off and he said, bro, let's go. Yeah? So now I've got my artist and producer. Then off the back of that, you know, making a little bit of noise. When I say noise, it wasn't really noise. I felt it was noise. I took on other artists. So I took on a rapper called Bonkers. Then I took on a singer called Jordan King. Then I took on a singer called Jalen. And at this time, I'm just feeling like I could just take on the world. Like, yeah, I could do it, right?
Shout out to my brother Jordan King.
Yes, big man Jordan King. He goes by the name of King now. So what happened was, I'm trying to build a family. So Miz Million Entertainment, family-run business. When I say that, meaning we're all one. Like, we're not all one, but we're all a part of this movement. We're all trying to be successful. Each one teach one. Each one lean off one. You know what I'm trying to say? If you're cutting through over here, bring in the next man type of thing. That's my vision. But what started happening was, it wasn't the artist's vision. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like, I feel like at that time, no disrespect, it happens, it's part of life. At that time, when the artist is like nothing ain't really happening for them, and they're seeing a movement that's happening, they want to be a part of that movement so that their career can flourish. So you come in, and yeah, your family, and we're this and we're that. Soon as you start getting a little bit of success, you're gone. You know what I'm trying to say? So when you're having that success, I'm loving it, because this is what we've been striving for. But when I'm still trying to bring you in with my other people, it's not really what you want to do. So then it come to the point where one of my artists cut and left me. Didn't have, and that, at that time, I felt was the worst thing that ever happened to me. I've struggled 4, 5, 6 years not making no money from music, putting my heart and soul, time, money and effort into this, for you to just leave me just like that. That point there, I wanted to give up. I didn't trust human beings no more. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, this is someone who I spoke to every day. We didn't have a problem. We didn't have an issue. You know, like in a relationship, right? There's constant arguments. So you can kind of feel it's going to come soon. There was no arguments. There was no issues. You just felt the grass was green on the other side. Teared my heart out. I bawl. I tell you straight. I didn't say that at the time, but I tell you straight, I bawled my eyes out, because I felt like my team was dismantling. You know what I'm trying to say? And yeah, that was a moment, man. And I thank the other artists that I had, the Jordans, the Jalens, the Rays, all of them, like, they kept me going, you know, because I said to them, I don't want to do this no more. Like, I don't want to do this no more. Like, I learned that everyone's kind of for themselves, really. You know what I'm saying? Me, I've got the vision of a family-run business. Artists just are selfish. No disrespect. They just want to win. Do you know what I'm trying to say? And that's rightfully so. but my vision was family.
If you're a businesswoman, please listen very clearly to it. And I feel like I wish I knew. I knew it. You know, my gut. You know, you have that gut feeling.
Yeah.
I had a gut feeling, but I had to like rebel against my gut feeling to then realize actually you should not do that again.
You were right.
That gut feeling was right. Never ever like wash down your brand in order to kind of in order to like you know, work with a company, you know, that may not even help you like elevate what you're trying to do. So imagine like CREATALAND, for example. Okay, so imagine CREATALAND, for example, you did a partnership with, I don't know, Meta, for example, I don't know, like just for the argument. Make sure that you actually look at how is this going to add value to CREATALAND. You know, we've done a lot of partnerships with companies where let's say we're commissioned to like train 150 people to get into tech. We've taken 90, we trained 90, and then we see them afterwards winning a lot of diversity and inclusion awards. Where's that coming from? But they were not getting acknowledgement from it. The contract terms are not really favourable. We're making a loss. I'm having to spend so much money, and actually we're not, you know, making a profit. So build things. Don't be afraid of collaboration, but collaborate selfishly. Is my. That sounds really like not fancy and quirky.
No, that's it's facts.
Yeah, actually collaborate selfishly in terms of like you have to be stubborn with your vision, and you have to be protective of your vision, and collaborate selfishly. Like I don't want to talk about it, but anyway, yeah, that's one of my key learnings.
I think that is something that is not spoken about.
Yeah.
That's not spoken about at all. Like, what does collaborate selfishly even mean? I mean, I get it.
Do you know what? Like, my nature as a woman is to collaborate unselfishly, but I've realized that the world of business does not work like that.
Exactly.
Like, I genuinely want every single one of us to win. And like, honestly, that is like at the core of me. And so it's been very emotional and actually very difficult to have to like I've been praying recently about that. Like, how do I, and to be honest, how do I make an impact? I have made an impact, like, because of the work that we've done at Nia and my vision. I've seen so many businesses thrive, and I'm like, wow, like, you played a role there, but you played a role there, you played a role there, and for me, that's a legacy that we've seen, and it's you can't you know,
Can't take that away from you.
You can't take that away from us. You can't, like, you cannot. And that's going to be there till after, until like even after I die, right? You know, hopefully. So it's kind of, how do I strike that balance? You know, it's difficult. It is quite hard.
And do you feel like, because obviously this is going to now beg
the question
and beg the debate of, but women shouldn't have to compromise for being our natural nurturing selves to be able to be in business.
Yeah.
However, my actual stance as it currently stands is no, you do, for the simple fact that if your vision is to serve the world, serve men, women, everyone in between, if your vision is to serve that, but your actions don't match up to that, or doesn't do what it takes and what's necessary to create that impact, then you will always be left behind.
Yeah, you will.
Like,
you always, like, I realized that, and what I meant by collaborate selfishly as well was like, I realized that sometimes I only recently got the balls, I guess, to say, actually, this is a Neo priority, you know, like, this is how Neo is going to be. Like, in the past, I would be like, oh yeah, maybe we can, no. Because I just watched the other people that I was like really like wanting to like support and work with, just like not even shout us out, but I'm always shouting them out. Like, but I'm not gonna stop shouting them out. I will, because I strongly believe, like that's important. But making sure that I'm protective of my vision and centering everything back into the vision of why we're even having a conversation. It's the vision that. It's the reason why we're having a conversation is because of the vision anyway. So let's center it back there. Like you see, and to actually see, okay, in terms of collaboration, what we bring to the table and what the other party brings to the table, and make sure that is aligned.
But did you do that when you first started? Did you feel like you could afford to be like selfishly collaborate, or did you think I need to put my name out there, I need to do X, Y, and Z to be able to get into the space, and then draw it back?
It has consequences though. No, I couldn't do that, but it depends on how you do it, and it has its consequences. If you do it with the brand in mind, like you have your own brand and you put your brand name out there, then that's okay. But if you do it and then create something else, then it causes a bit of confusion.
Right, okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Let's say you've got like Create a Life, and let's say you want to collaborate with Meta, and Meta was like, oh, let's call the project, I don't know, something else.
Red space.
Red space.
I don't know.
Right?
We're in the red room, so.
Let's call it Red Space.
Red space.
Everyone's going to know you for Red Space because Meta's a big company.
Right.
Does that make sense? And like, you're like, actually, no, we're here because of Create a Life anyway. So that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
It's really important to be stubborn with the vision and stick to that. And that's a mistake that I made. So yeah.
When I was in sixth form, I thought I was going to fail my A-levels. So I was like, you know what? If everything goes to shit, I'm going to start a brand called Chabra's Chai and just sell tea and cake. This was like, anyway, obviously it all worked out. I ended up going to uni. It was fine. But
she was always going to go to uni. It was a good idea.
Yeah.
You wanted retweets.
Yeah. Yeah, I tweeted it. And then in 2017, I think I was working with my dad at the time, and my dad was like, just register the name. It only costs like £10 and you don't want anyone to steal it. So I was like, okay. So I registered it, and then I spoke to these guys and they were like, you should actually start it. Like, you're taking the name, like, let's get this going. And we didn't really have a solid idea of exactly what we were going to sell. We just knew that it was going to be chai, hospitality business, and we were passionate about putting the flavours of chai out there because we hadn't really tasted authentic chai on the market, especially in actual like ready-to-go drinks. And nothing that was sugar-free as well. Like, if they were authentic, all the stalls that would already have sugar mixed in.
Oh my God.
Right?
Wow, yes. And it's overbearing.
Yeah, very, very sweet.
Sorry, I didn't even think about that, but
yeah,
carry on.
and I'm diabetic, just a caveat. So for me, it was really important that things were sugar-free. Like, everyone in my family loves sweet things. I even love, but I want the option of adding it in. I don't want it already added in.
Especially because you drink it all the time.
Yeah.
Like, it needs to be sugar-free.
Yeah. So that is how it started. And we were originally doing like trade shows, exhibitions, selling cups of chai, and it was like really, really grueling hard work and very capital intensive. But I think from that we got loads of feedback on the flavours of our chai. And also originally it was loose leaf, and we were like importing organic Assam chai, getting raw spices, grinding it together in our kitchen, mixing it together, and then packaging them and selling them at these trade shows and online. And actually we did that for a while. Even when we had tea bags, we were still grinding everything ourselves. So we knew exactly what went in, we knew the spice ratios, and then we would hand seal it with these sealing bags that would always break in the middle of the night. And so we were up till like 2 a.m. like sealing tea bags.
Wow.
And then eventually when we've got our first big order, we were like, right, we can't slave away for weeks and weeks and weeks with tea bags. So let's find a good supplier that matches our spice ratio. We'll give them our recipe and like get this going basically. That's my version of events anyway.
Wow, okay. I love
No,
that. Is there any other version of events?
No, very similar. I think the 2 years that we did the trade shows, the festivals, the market stalls, that was like we were 22 as well at this point when we started. I think we were overly idealistic, optimistic. We thought we'll put this out, we'll go to Glastonbury.
People love it.
People love it. And then I don't think we realised at the same time we also are trying to, we need money firstly, so we're working full time. Then we'll take like the Thursday off maybe, or the Friday off, we'll do Friday. Sunday night we'd get home, wash everything up, go to work again on Monday. We had no time to really think about where we wanted this to go, what like business strategy. It was just kind of, we just need to make money with the money that we've sold. So yeah, I think it was a learning curve for the first 2 years, but yeah, I don't know if, we always say if we launch the business now, I don't know, I think it would look completely different. But it's a story.
Oh, that's a question. What, if you did launch it now, what would be like your top 3 things that you would do like wildly different?
Don't skimp. This is just one of them, like on graphic design and things that like consultants that you need to hire, like the ones that are asking for the big bucks. Some of them are a bit obviously too much, but the ones that are highly skilled are going to ask for good money. Like as good as Fiverr is, I don't know if everyone knows about Fiverr, like you're not going to find the highest level of work done. Like when you need like copywriting and like routine tasks done, Fiverr is great, but our original design of our website and everything was done on Fiverr, and it was great in terms of cost because we just started and we were like graduates. But I think if we did it now, we would definitely still try and save costs, but do it like find the right person to do it, not just find anyone online.
And I think when we always speak about this because we are so close as friends. We've been friends for so long. We have groupthink. So we're like, this is an amazing idea. Like this is so good. And we'll all be like, yeah. And then someone else will be like,
wait, what?
Yeah. And then like we'll get feedback. It's like, but they're not seeing what we're seeing. So I think
you don't get it.
You don't get it. Yeah. But like that's the people who are paying for it. We're not buying our own product. Yeah. So I think if we did it now, we're way more like, okay, this is good. We like it, but like, this isn't final. Let's see what other people think, which seems obvious, but when you start, it's like, no, but this is a good idea. Like,
and you're so passionate about your baby products, and you just want to run with it. But we would definitely spend more time getting feedback, collecting feedback first, because we've sort of done that over the years, and we've changed things. And obviously, that's expensive, making all of these changes. But yeah, if we did it, we started again, probably spend more time getting that feedback firstly. But yeah, it's all been a good learning curve.
Expensive learning curve.
So when you say expensive learning curve, CFO?
COO.
COO. Okay, sorry. Oh, COO. Do you have a CFO?
No, I kind of manage the finance side of things.
Okay, so with expenditures, what is, obviously testing is a large part of all of it, but what would you say was the one thing that you bought, or a couple things that you got that was so unnecessary but you spent money on?
Where do I start? Where do I start?
It's true.
Let's start back in 2018. So we started off with these, we were like, we're going to have one full-size product and one sample for people that don't want...
I actually forgot about that.
For people that don't want the full-size packet. So we're like, okay, cool.
Can we just keep that for a second? We had so much disbelief in our own product that we said people might not want to commit to
They
it.
might just want a tiny little size.
Oh, okay.
This was with the loose leaf as well.
Yeah, we designed 2 packets, one full size, one small size. When we'd ordered thousands of stickers and little packets, they came and they were so small you couldn't read a word. It was like small baby font. We were like, oh my god, we've just ordered
with the
so much.
site, you would not be able to read this tiny little font. We just like, we had rolls and rolls of
They're
these
still
stickers.
sitting. I kept them for memory to remind myself of how stupid I was. So back in my shed on the top floor, they're sitting there.
That was silliness.
How much did you spend on it?
I don't want to talk about it right now.
Wow, that much. Stress.
Yeah, so it's expenditures like that which just seem so wasteful.
What else have we spent on?
I think just as a business that sells goods, it's obviously cheaper to buy things in bulk. So it's much better to buy things for 10,000 than it is to buy like 5,000 of them. And so for that reason, whatever we order, whether we decide to continue or not, we buy in bulk. And then I think it ends up being that we then decide there's a recipe change or there's a design change, and it's like, okay, now we can't use it, now we have to order a whole load of boxes in. So I think that's one thing to think about when you're starting a food or drinks business. A lot of capital goes into your design and your boxes.
You kind of have to just take the L.
You have to.
Big businesses will just be like, well, we've got this now, we've got a great taste, fuck all the old packaging. But we're actually like, no, but we spent like 10,000 on it. We're going to keep pushing it out. But it's like, come on, you need to...
And the biggest blunder of all, how could we forget? So before we launched our cinnamon and masala chai in Tesco, this was a couple of weeks before the launch, so like very critical timing. It needs to get into the warehouse, and I get a call from the tea factory saying, oh, by the way, you know your 3-spice cinnamon chai, it actually says 5 on it, and we've ordered 10,000 cartons. That's thousands of pounds gone in the drain. Like,
I think that's the biggest.
That was the biggest L.
That was like a dark day.
We were just sat in silence, just like... Wow, my heart just sunk.
Because also, like, this needs to get into Tesco. We have no time to waste. And it says the wrong...
And the lead time for the factories to print boxes is obviously 2 to 3 weeks. So now I'm on the phone to the supplier, like, yo, you need to do me a favour and get this printed and sent to the team.
In days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we were trying to, like, trace the blame. And I was like, whose fault is this? And it actually was mine.
It's not just, it's our own.
It's our own, yeah.
Like, there's
I had sent the approval of like, yeah, this looks good, and not like triple checked with my eyes, like this says 5.
I think that's what hurts more. A lot of these mistakes we made, like even we did a trade show and we ended up having to pay for electricity there and then, and like there's loads of things that we've done which is kind of not our own fault, but it's like, if only I'd just taken one more
If I planned.
It would have been fine, which just hurts more, I guess.
What was your catalyst in life that pushed you into entrepreneurship? Because you went into business quite young. So yeah.
There was a few different things. Quite similar to yourself. One of the things was definitely what people spoke over me. I wanted to change the narrative. It was also that you're gonna fall pregnant and this and that. These times I wasn't even having sex. And I'm like, little do you know,
exactly,
I haven't even lost my virginity. Like, what a great stigma to have because I'm pretty.
The threat.
Like, it's but it's horrible. It's horrible to be struck as that person when you haven't even done anything. Like, yeah. So that was kind of like during school times, because I even had a few like adults, like, pretty sure my mum said it to me a couple of times, and I was just like, still a fucking virgin, mate.
That's definitely in our culture. Yeah, but, take my no.
Yeah. Because you got one little idiot boyfriend. And you're staying out a couple of hours too late. Like. But no, so people speaking kind of bad on my life was definitely one thing. I was just like, watch me.
Exactly.
Watch me, bitch. Like, and then also it was the adversity of feeling like I didn't have a home and feeling like I couldn't provide for myself. And my one side of my family was decent in terms of they had houses, they had assets, they had good jobs, whatever it was, and then another side of my family had to deal with poverty and redundancies and depression and anxiety, and I saw that life and I was like, that's not the life that I'm going to live. I'm not going to live that life in any which way. So what do I need to do to not do that? And I felt I learn a lot from people's mistakes. That's why I like learning and hearing other people's kind of journeys, which is what I love doing on this podcast as well, is I listen to other people's situations and I create a way for me to not have to go through the same situation. And I've actually always been able to steer away from, if I've heard somebody go through something and seen their journey and it hasn't been good, I've actually completely stayed away and never had to deal with that issue. Right. So the difference of, so that was that. And then the catalyst moment, I think, one of, like, there's, as I said, a number of different occasions, but one of the occasions that sticks out for me is when I had my first, I got a studio salon when I was around 18, and I was doing training and teaching people how to do lashes, but also teaching business through beauty. And that business all came about because in my teenage years, I watched Princess Diaries.
I remember that.
Yeah, Princess Diaries.
Princess Diaries.
And Princess Diaries, for me, like, this goes back to me saying that I learned through watching other people, right? So I learn a lot through watching films, watching videos, whatever it may be. And I watched Princess Diaries, and there were so in Princess Diaries, you've got this massive school,
yeah,
and it's called a finishing school, and girls would go to this finishing school in their summer breaks, and they will learn things like etiquettes, things like how to dress, things like how to communicate, things like how to be a lady. And I thought to myself, why don't I have that? Why can't I learn how to use a knife and fork?
Come on.
Properly.
Yes.
And it fascinated me. And from that point onwards, I noticed that school never taught that. Not just etiquette, but just because what a finishing school does, a finishing school starts you up for life.
For life, right.
So it's life skills. It's not etiquette skills, it's life skills. It's how to communicate, it's how to shake someone's hand properly, it's how to dress in particular occasions, it's how to understand context, it's basic fucking human skills. Why is that? Why do I not know how to do these things? Or why is it not that there's school? Why is school not teaching these things? And then I realised that it is taught. You just have to pay to go to those kind of schools.
Come on.
And then I looked at it. I looked at how much a finishing school costs. And I was like, shit. I can't even muster up 50 quid. How am I mustering up 50,000?
My God.
For a term, or 10,000 for each term, right? So I realised that a finishing school is actually privileged information. And that privilege, it's not for everyone, because everyone can't afford it. So it's definitely not for anybody that's come from my backgrounds. Even the little piece of money that my dad's side of the family had, it still wasn't enough to take me to those kinds of places.
Right.
Right? And it sparked my interest and my desire to be able to teach that. So I decided, I looked into exactly what a finishing school was. I looked into all the courses in it. I even called up a few. I was at 16, 17 years old at this point, right? And I was like, I want to be able to create a finishing school for disadvantaged young people. How do I do that? Obviously, completely underqualified. I don't bloody know how to use a knife and fork either, right? But I knew that was the information that I wanted to learn.
Yeah.
I knew that was information that propelled this set of people to a life
yes.
that none of us
have access to.
Exactly. And I was like, shit, okay, wow. We need to somehow teach this information to young people. But what I also understood is that we were so, as disadvantaged young people, we were so far removed from social norms and etiquettes, right? It was too far of a leap, too far of a jump to just create a finishing school and expect disadvantaged young people to even care about coming.
Right.
So I had to somehow intertwine that learning into something that they understood, because I knew that when I went to secondary school, I was learning things that I didn't care about. Like, I didn't understand, and it just wasn't relevant to me, right? So I needed to work out a way to get through to someone like myself, but teach them information that they need. That this is information, like this privileged information is actually information that you need to navigate your way through life with the least amount of obstacles.
Yeah.
Right? Because you can turn around and say, because I had this conversation with a few different people. People would turn around and be like, I don't want to change the way that I dress, or I don't want to change the way that I am, because that's who I am. I'm not going to conform to society just to fit in.
Yeah.
And it's not about conforming to society. It's about understanding what society understands and being able to manipulate that for your own benefit.
Exactly.
Melanin Style Diaries. You started Melanin Style Diaries as a creative outlet.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that.
So I started Melanin Style Diary in August 2018. That's when I was actually working. I remember creating the page on the way to work. And
full-time work in
another industry? Yeah, so full-time work. I was a senior consultant in David Lloyd at the time. And I remember I was walking through Kidbrook Park and I was creating the page, came off the train, I created the page. Because at the time I was putting out content. But I specifically, to answer your question, to specifically answer your question, the page was made because there wasn't platforms for bloggers and individuals in the fashion, lifestyle, food and drink industry being seen. It was always, women of colour with 10k, 20k, 30k following, and someone who's got 800 to maybe 1k followers, they were not getting a looking. Their content was just as good as a 10k following, but they were not being seen. And I felt to myself, this has got to stop now, and we need a meaningful platform. I'm going to create it because I too was putting out content. I was, being paid to wear clothes. I was getting things sent to me and food and drink to put out on Instagram at the time. And again, I felt I wasn't being seen. So that's why I created a platform to provide that space, to provide a community for bloggers who have a lower following with great content to be on the page. And there are quite a few bloggers now who have soared by being on the page and building that relationship up with them. And Melanin Style Diary is more than just posting a picture. It's a place where you can build your confidence. I'm literally at the other end of the phone. You can call me, you can DM me if you have, any ideas that you want to put towards a platform, because it's not only my platform, it's the bloggers' platform as well, because they too contribute to the page. And it wasn't there. I mean, you have the odd pages here and there to be posted, but there wasn't that little more to create that community and want to be a part of the page as well. So that's why I created Melanin Style Diary. So what I did was, coming away from the events now, I'm a creative, there's so many ideas flowing through me, and it was a different outlet for me to regain my confidence and to put myself out there again in the capacity that I thought I needed to put myself out there.
Sure.
So a lot of people really resonated with the page, and it's thriving till this day.
What's your, this doesn't have to be set in stone, but what's your bigger plan for Melanin Style Diary?
My bigger plan, so
as in, does it stay on Instagram, or is there more?
No, so it won't stay on Instagram. I'll have a website. I will have a space. I will have product, and I will be overseas. that's what I'll say about the page.
Yeah.
I recently did a live introducing myself. So for 4 years, I was hidden. Nobody knew who was running the page. I was uploading my friends. They didn't even know I was behind the page.
Oh.
Yeah, so we'll have discussions about the page. Oh, what do you think about Merlin Style Diary? Yes, oh my gosh, they posted me. They really liked my outfit. And I was like, yeah, they posted me as well. They didn't know it was me. It was quite funny.
That is mad.
But do you know what it is? It's a feel-good factor. The fact that I made my friends smile or, you know, other people smile because they are getting a look in. They are being acknowledged. They're being appreciated with their creativity, being able to really show who they are, have an outlet to show who they are. You can imagine you are a fashionista in itself.
Thank you.
I posted you. So
Do you know what? I knew it.
I posted
No,
you.
I knew it. I knew that's why I was following you. I knew it. This was years ago though.
Yeah.
Okay, go carry
I
on.
was like, I love her style. And funny thing is, like I said, I thought I already knew you.
That is crazy.
I thought I already knew you anyway. So yeah, I posted you because your fashion is eccentric, it's out of this world. I would never even think of putting certain colour combos together like you. All right? So even your hair right now, that shows your personality, and this is what it is. The page shows personality, and you get like-minded people on the page as well. So Merlin Style Diary, there's a lot that's happening with the page, and that's where I'm pouring my all into now.
Tell me an experience that essentially changed things for you. Or yeah.
I would say I have so many. Too many, I would say, actually, too many. And you know what? It's nice that I can talk about this now because me and my dad are like completely different place now. He is literally like, I love him, I adore him, he's amazing. And I there's definitely some things that I think he could have done differently, but I understand why he did what he did. So I'll kind of like even take it a step back to in a very simplified way as to why I didn't rebel was because I was scared of my dad. That's me just being very, very real. I was scared, and when I say scared, terrified of my dad. You know, many things that I don't necessarily want to go into just because it's not between me and him, it's between like him and my mum. But just picture this, right? You're growing up in a household where your dad is very African. And there's a lot of African mentality, i.e. the woman does certain things and the man does certain things. And whatever the man says goes. And if the man decides that this is how we're going to do things, that is it. My dad was very academic. My dad finished university early. He finished when he was 19. He graduated very early, finished when he was 19. And then by the time he was 19, 20, was lecturing people who were older than him at university. That is the level of intelligence that my dad has and had. And I feel like, unfortunately, because of just circumstances, situations, he didn't get to fulfill that potential. So he even came to the country. He, you know, very, very humble job. He was a postman for over 15 years, then decided to quit and go back to study. He's now only wrapping up his studies and stuff, but now he's in his 60s. And I would say that he definitely was a dreamer and always spoke about the type of life that he wanted. Fast forward now, I did want to be a lawyer at some point, but then I kind of realized, oh, do you know what? This feels like a bit boring. Like I knew that I love talking to people. I love conversations. I love storytelling. I love hearing people's stories. So then I started getting to a place where I was like, what could I be? Oh, okay, I want to be a presenter, whatever. So looked at the one person that everybody knew, Oprah. So I was like, I think I want to be like Oprah, right? Because she's the one black woman that was making it on TV. You know, apart from the June Sarpongs and those sort of people. But Oprah was like the one. So when I was about 15, I kind of was like, yes, I want to go into I want to be a presenter. Then I just happened to find some radio course basically happening in East London that was free at the time, because honestly, I got to thank God, because at the time there were a lot of free projects and stuff for young people, especially those from disadvantaged backgrounds. So I joined the course. So I started doing this presenting course, radio course, started learning about radio and stuff. Then as we went down the line, I think I was about 16, I came back home and my parents were in the living room, right? Very silent as it was, because there wasn't like really relationship there. It was just kind of like two people that are just there because, again, very, very common in like the African community. My parents had just kind of sat there, and then I came and sat down, and my dad must have asked me like, so, and he wasn't looking at me, by the way. He just sat there like, as he does, asked me, so what are you even doing with yourself? What do you want? What are you doing? And I remember being like, turning to my mum and kind of being like, oh, you know, I want to be a broadcast journalist because I wanted to make it sound nicer. Then I want to have a dream that probably millions of other people in the world have, of being a presenter, a TV presenter, a host, or whatever you want to call it. So I tried to make it sound good. I said, I want to be a broadcast journalist. And my mum was like, oh, that sounds good. My mum always been my number one supporter. Like, love her to bits. My dad didn't even look at me. He just went, why do you want to go and do that? There's no money in that. You think you can go and do that? Just go and start looking for something that will actually pay you. And in that moment, I looked over at him, so disinterested, so disconnected from my dreams, the things that I wanted to do. And I remember in that moment, I rebelled, but in a different way. I rebelled internally, where I was like, I'm going to prove you wrong. I'm going to show you that I can do this. I'm going to show you that I can make something of myself that's different to what you think I need to be, rather than saying, you know, again, typical African household, doctor, lawyer, engineer, those sorts of things. I'm going to prove you wrong. But what I also did in order to keep him happy is I made sure that my academia never slipped. So I came to kind of a compromise with my mum, because even at one point, my mum was saying, you're spending too much time doing this radio stuff. What about school? Blah, 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 blah. Again, that very immigrant mentality, not even just African, but immigrant mentality, where it's like, education is important. You need to go to school, you need to study so you can get a job, and then you can do this and you can do that. So my mum even started to get concerned at one point. And I remember just saying to her, I was like, Mum, I promise you, if I can keep my grades up, please let me carry on this radio thing. So we came to a compromise. And so I never let my grades slip. I always remained like an A star student, a couple of B's here and there, but we don't talk about that. A star and A student. And even with my dad, he saw as I was going along this journey, my dad, to be fair, was very like quite disconnected from the things that we were doing. He didn't come to any of like my school performances, any of my anything, really and truly. He was just kind of there at the time. But then he's the exact same person who years later, when my YouTube channel started to grow, he was telling people like back home, like, yeah, you know, go onto a YouTube channel. Yeah, it's spelled N-I. And I was like, I told you were going to become a believer. I knew it in my head, obviously. I didn't say it at the time. But fear, ultimately, I say all of that to say fear was what carried me to not rebel in the way that I even saw other people, some of my friends, some of my family members, they rebelled. Like, you know, they wouldn't care. They'll be like, I'm still going to go, even if my parents call. I was so scared of my dad. I was so afraid of him. I just couldn't bring myself to do it. But then at the same time, I look back now and I say, definitely some things I think he could have done differently. Because even there were times where I remember he had friends who would be like, you're so hard on your children. Like, you need to, you know, calm down a little bit. But I'm not going to lie to you, all of his daughters came out amazing. There's 4 of us. So myself, and I've got 3 older sisters, all daughters. No boys, all girls. And we're all amazing. I'm not going to lie to you, all of our heads screwed on. My sister just graduated from university, from Warwick. So bright, intelligent. She's now working for a PR company. She's doing brilliant. My other sister's at university. She finished her first year. She's also got a YouTube channel. She's also like got that kind of academic creativity. My younger sister, also brilliant. Like, and obviously I'm a bit biased because they're my sisters, my siblings. But I see why he also felt like he had to be so hard on us. Because we grew up in an environment where, let's be real, a lot of girls were ending up pregnant really, really young. A lot of people were dropping out of school. A lot of violent crime, knife crime, gun crime. So it could have been very easy for us to fall into those things. So I even think now as an adult, now that I'm married and now thinking about kids, I kind of get it. Because I'm like, you're looking at your kids thinking they could end up anyhow. Look at the environment we grew up in, you know. But it was fear, a lot of fear. A lot. I think too much fear. Definitely could have done with a bit of love and a bit of reassurance, but a lot of fear, and that's what stopped me.
So that's quite interesting because a lot of people's households create fear, right? Would you say that the relationship between your mum and your dad caused or brought up issues for you being the woman that you are and also going into relationships?
That's such a good question. Yes and yes. Yes and yes. So in terms of me, the woman that I am today, the public speaker, the entrepreneur, the content creator, whatever you want to call it, yes, but I would even say maybe slightly in a positive way. Obviously, I grew up in a household, like I said before, like, you know, we didn't have much money, to the point where, and this was probably 2 stories that I use all the time when I do like any speaking engagements and stuff, that literally shifted my entire trajectory in terms of like who I am today. One being, I remember my mum sitting me down one time when we were about 16 years old. And this is where my mum's now starting to talk to me now. She's starting to kind of let me in a bit more. And also I'm starting to realize like some of the brokenness in our home, some of the, now I've recently started doing therapy. So even during therapy, one of the things that my therapist said to me, like the disorganization, like the really disorganized environment that I grew up in, right? But I started to see things. I'm starting to notice like, okay, you know, my parents' relationship is not really like the best, and there's tension all the time, and it's quite scary being here. And then my mum sat me down one day and she was like, you know, Nissy, if it wasn't for the fact that I could get an overdraft at the bank, like I could live, like we could live off of an overdraft, we would have to go to a food bank to go and get food. And that was the first time I think I really deeped, like I really understood, like, wait, we really don't have money. Like, what? Could we be considered poor? I think that's like the first time where I was like, I really think we could be considered poor, because I swear only poor people go to the food bank. Like when you literally have no other choice, like nobody wakes up and say, oh, I want to go to the food bank to go and eat today. Like you don't. You do it because you're desperate or because you're at the end and you don't know how you're going to feed your kids. So I looked at my mum and I said, oh my gosh, we're poor. That was number one. The second time was when my little sister, so the third sister, who is now currently just finished first year of uni, she's always been into acting. That's been her thing. She's an actor. She's amazing. So she spent year after year after year in primary school being the lead actor, right? And one time, you know, my mum even asked the teacher, like, why do you keep putting her as the lead? Don't you want to put other kids, like, to make them feel a bit better? Like, because this girl was getting the lead role every single time. And literally the teacher that was managing like the acting at the time just said, it's because she's the best. She's literally the best. She was amazing. Now, she was so good that the primary school that she went to was connected to not connected to, but they started making connections with like a drama school, like a West End theatre school, one of the best. I've even forgotten the name. I should actually remember because I tell this story all the time, but one of the best West End schools. And my sister was basically picked out as one of the potential people to come and audition. It was like 3 days intense audition. I was the one that actually took her because, again, immigrant parents, they don't really understand all that kind of stuff. So I took her and she killed it. Like, she smashed it. She was amazing. And so much so, after the 3 days of the audition, like, they're knocking out people, by the way. Different people are like, you know, nope, you can't go through to the next round. She makes it to the final round. She's one of like maybe 5 black kids out of like hundreds of like white kids. And again, people that have money, right? Which unfortunately, you know, tends to be our white counterparts. So all of these kids, she makes it through. They say, do you know what? We want to offer a space at this school. However, there's a fee. This is how much she has to pay. We couldn't afford it. We then go back to them and say, look, we really want her to go to this. So I again, you know, doing what I do as the oldest child, trying to negotiate with them. Oh, she can't, you know, we can't pay this, but is there anything that we can do? Because we know that she would really thrive in this environment. And they said, oh my gosh, you know what? We get it. We can even give her a scholarship and we can half the fee. We still couldn't afford half. In that moment, my little sister's dreams were snatched away. This girl, and these were people like that had kids that had gone on to like go EastEnders and Hollyoaks and like had gone on to do big things, right? Here in the UK, some had travelled abroad and all of this stuff. And I literally saw my little sister's dream be snatched away from her in that moment because of something like money, because of something that literally banks print every day just because. For me, in that moment, I got angry. I literally made a vow to myself and I said, I will never again allow money and finances to be the reason why my siblings, my own flesh and blood, cannot do something. And I think from that moment, everything changed.
We really hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you for listening, and be sure to like, subscribe, comment, and send it around to a friend, because you know that's the only thing that's going to support us. Thank you.